Good evening and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you this book about Greece. Let's see where it is in the world. Greece. Rugged beauty. Greece is probably best known for its islands. Visitors from all over Europe and other parts of the world spend their vacations on one of about 50 islands in the Aegean Sea. They leave with memories of blue seas, sandy beaches, and whitewashed villages. But there is a lot more to Greece. The country's mainland has rugged mountains, dense forests, and lakes. It also has many remarkable ancient sites that are evidence of the country's history as the birthplace of Western culture. Greece holds many surprises. With its long history, who would guess that the area has been a single state for less than 200 years? Did you know that there are two different versions of the Greek language, or that half of all Greeks live abroad? Ragged coastline. Greece is the southernmost country in Europe. Located at the tip of the Balkan Peninsula, it is slightly smaller than the U.S. state of Alabama. Greece has a long, jagged coastline with many inlets that create slender peninsulas jutting into the sea. The country is divided into three geographical regions: the mainland, the islands, and the Peloponnese, the peninsula just south of the mainland. Mainland mountains. 3/4 of mainland Greece is mountainous. The Pindus Range forms a rocky spine that runs north to south. Rising over 8,530 feet, the Pindus has spectacular limestone landscapes, including the Vikos Gorge. It is one of the world's deepest gorges, plunging 3,600 feet. In the east, the Olympic Mountains rise to Greece's highest point, Mount Olympus. The Pindus and Olympic ranges extend to the Peloponnese. They also plunge beneath the sea, where their peaks form several strings of islands. Crowded lowlands. Greece's lowlands are mostly narrow strips along the coast. There are also fertile plains inland in Thessaly in central Greece, and in Macedonia and Thrace in the north. The lowlands are home to most of the country's population. 2/3 of Greece's population lives in just 8 cities. Athens, the capital, is by far the largest. Island groups. Greece has the longest coastline in Europe. Greeks have always looked to the sea for fishing and trading, and they boast one of the largest shipping fleets in the world. Western Greece is bordered by the Ionian Sea. The Mediterranean Sea is to the south, and the Aegean is to the east. There are 3,000 Greek islands, of which only about 100 are inhabited. The islands are divided into 5 groups. The Ionian Islands in the west include Corfu and Kefalonia. The Sporades include Euboea and lie east of the mainland, while the North Aegean and Dodecanese Islands hug the Turkish coast. The Cyclades lie in the center, with Crete, Greece's largest island, to the south. Natural dangers. Greece lies on a fault line between two of the huge tectonic plates that make up the surface of the earth. The country is regularly rocked by earthquakes as the plates rub up against each other. In 1999, Athens was hit by a quake that killed 139 people and destroyed almost 3,000 homes. Geological activity also causes volcanic eruptions. Several Greek islands are really the tips of dormant volcanoes rising from the ocean floor. Ancient groves. Forests of tall fir trees still cover remote hills in Greece, but 5,000 years ago, dense forests covered much of the country. Over the long history of human habitation, Greeks have cut down trees for fuel and lumber and cleared forests to create farms. The remaining forests are mostly in mountains such as the Pindus and Rhodope ranges. Located in the southeastern corner of Europe and close to North Africa and Asia, Greece has a rich diversity of plant and animal life, drawn from all 3 regions. Greece has broad-leaved woodlands of beech, oak, and chestnut, similar to the forests of Central Europe, but the mountains have conifer forests that would not look out of place in Scandinavia. In the south, Greece has many olive trees, a species that came originally from West Asia. Farmland and olive groves. Here we go. Only about a quarter of Greece is suitable for growing crops. Most other areas are too barren for fields. Instead, they are used as pastures for sheep and goats. Tall, waving cypress trees and groves of olive trees are found all over Greece. Olives have been cultivated in the country for almost 6,000 years, to be eaten as a snack or crushed to make rich cooking oil. Every village has its own olive groves, with many containing gnarled trees that are centuries old. Sense of the maquis. I believe that's how you pronounce that. Much of the terrain of Greece consists of a dense tangle of thorny shrubs known as maquis. Maquis plants thrive on stony ground throughout the mainland and islands. They can survive long periods of time without water. They include glossy-leaved trees and shrubs such as holm oak, myrtle, and bay. Underfoot are herbs such as thyme, rosemary, and oregano, which give the maquis a strong, tangy scent, and the herbs featured in Greek cooking too. The dense vegetation provides a habitat for nesting birds, such as larks and warblers. Bloom time. In spring, Greece is filled with wildflowers. Bright splashes of red poppies and tall spikes of gladioli, lupin, and iris cover hillsides. Crocuses and delicate anemones bloom in shady woods. Greece is home to about 6,000 species of flowering plants, including many that are found nowhere else. The maquis is dotted with magenta and white rock roses and yellow fennel flowers. The wildflowers provide food for clouds and colorful butterflies. Reptiles such as Hermann's tortoise and the Rhodos dragon, or large agama lizard, warm themselves on sunny rocks. Geckos are often seen in villages with their sticky toes. These acrobatic lizards dart across the ceilings in search of flies. Mammal life. Ancient writers speak of leopards and lions roaming the wilds of Greece. Those days are now long gone, but in remote areas you may still catch a glimpse of mammals that are very scarce elsewhere in Europe. Wolves and brown bears survive in parts of the Pindus and Rhodope Mountains. Brown bears eat both plants and animals. In fall they feast on wild cherries. Wolves mostly eat meat, like sheep. Shepherds keep fierce sheepdogs to guard their flocks against wolves. Wild boar, martens, red squirrels, crested porcupines, and badgers are found in Greek forests. Scrublands and pastures are home to wild cats, and the occasional jackalpack or lynx. Birdwatcher's paradise. Greece is a good place to see birds any time of year. In spring, geese, ducks, and swallows stop by on their migration from Africa to northern Europe. In fall, the birds pass through again on their way south. Other birds stay in Greece all year, or arrive in fall to avoid the harsh northern winters. Birds of prey, including eagles, patrol remote uplands in search of rodents like mice and voles. Life in the seas. Greece's long coastline and clear waters make it a great place to spot marine life. Spiny sea urchins, starfish, sea anemones, and sponges carpet the bed of clean coves. Delicate seahorses and their slender cousins, the pipefish, hide out in seaweed. Out at sea, common and bottlenose dolphins sometimes swim alongside ships. Larger fish include blue and mako sharks. Land of empires. The modern skyline of Athens is dominated by an ancient citadel called the Acropolis. This steep-sided rocky outcrop is crowned by the soaring columns of a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, the city's protector in ancient times, according to mythology. This ancient wonder dates back to the Golden Age of Greece, when the Greeks led the world in science, mathematics, and the arts. In the 2nd century BCE, Greece was conquered by the Romans, which marked the start of 2,000 years of foreign rule. Standing on the Acropolis, You look down over Roman buildings and the winding streets of Plaka, a district built centuries ago during Turkish rule. In 1832, Greece won independence and the modern state of Greece was born. Early civilizations. The first great civilization in Greece was the Minoan culture, which reached a peak in about 2000 BCE. Based in Crete, the Minoans were great seafarers and merchants and built an empire through trade, while paintings found in the ruined palace at Knossos show scenes from Minoan life. They include ceremonies in which young people took turns doing backflips over a charging bull. The bull was sacred to the Minoans. Around 1450 BCE, the Minoans were conquered by the Mycenaeans, a warlike people from mainland Greece. The Mycenaeans ruled from fortified cities. Theirs was the age of heroes and warriors, later celebrated by the poet Homer in his epic poem, the Iliad. Homer tells of a war between the Greeks and the Trojans, caused by the kidnapping of a Greek queen named Helen. The Greeks besieged the city of Troy, now an archaeological site in Turkey, for 10 years. They finally tricked their way into the city by hiding in the body of a giant wooden horse. By 1100 BCE, the Mycenaean civilization had collapsed and their cities were abandoned. The next several centuries were Greece's dark ages. People lived in small villages, but aspects of Mycenaean culture and religion remained. Greek gods were believed to live on Mount Olympus. Zeus was king of gods and ruled the heavens. His brothers reigned over the rest of the universe. Poseidon ruled the sea, while Hades was the god of the underworld. Zeus's son Apollo was god of the sun, while his daughter Athena was goddess of wisdom. Rise of city-states. In the 8th century BCE, a new age dawned. City-states such as Athens, Sparta, Thebes, and Corinth began to grow. Each state controlled territory around a single city. The ancient Greek word for a city, polis, is the root of words such as politics and metropolis. The Greek states were frequently at war with one another, but occasionally they united to fight a common enemy, such as the Persians. By the 5th century BCE, Athens had become the most powerful city-state. New ideas. The next 200 years were the golden age of ancient Greece. New branches of art and learning developed. Students today still study the work of ancient Greek thinkers, such as the philosopher Aristotle and the mathematician Euclid. Most Greek city-states were ruled by noblemen, but in 508 BCE, Athens introduced a new system called democracy, ruled by the people. Modern countries have governments inspired by this first democracy. However, unlike today, only men could vote in Athens. Foreign rule. In 338 BCE, Philip II of Macedonia took control of Greece. When he was assassinated 2 years later, his son took over. Within 13 years, Alexander had carved out an empire stretching all the way to India. Although the Romans conquered the country by 146 BCE, they still revered ancient Greece. Roman nobles sent their sons to be educated in Athens. By 330 CE, the Romans were losing control of their vast empire. Emperor Constantine built a new capital in the east of Byzantium, which he renamed Constantinople. Soon after, the Eastern Roman Empire, including Greece, broke from the west, becoming the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire survived long after the fall of the Western Empire based in Rome. However, during the 1200s, Byzantine power was weakened by a series of religious wars known as the Crusades. By 1460, Greece had become part of the vast Ottoman Empire, ruled by Muslim Turks from the east. The fight for independence. The Ottomans allowed their Greek subjects to keep their culture and follow their own Orthodox Christian religion. However, by the 1700s, many Greeks were unhappy with being ruled by foreigners. In 1821, a full-scale war broke out against the Turks. The Greeks won in 1829, thanks to help from other European armies. The modern state of Greece was officially founded in 1832, although it was only about half its present size. The first king of Greece, King Otto, was handpicked by the European allies. He was a member of a German noble family and was just 17 years old when he took the throne. Otto was not popular, and his 30-year reign was a time of great instability in Greek history. The Great Idea. Greece began a series of wars to increase its territory, to include all lands where Greek people lived. This was called the Great Idea. The country expanded northward to include Thessaly, Macedonia, and Epirus. In 1908, Crete also chose to become part of Greece. Greek armies then headed east into Turkey, but were finally defeated in 1922. More than 1 million Greeks living in western Turkey were forced to resettle in Greece, which increased the population by 1/4 and caused major economic problems. Continuing unrest. In the 1930s, there were growing calls to change the system of government. In 1936, Ioannis Metaxas took control of Greece. He allowed the king to stay, but ruled as a dictator. During World War II, Greece was occupied by Italian, German, and Bulgarian troops. The country was freed in 1944, and the king was restored. However, civil war broke out between royalists and communists. Government forces won in 1949. In 1967, a group of military officers seized power. The king fled to Italy. In 1974, democracy was restored. Greeks voted against having a king and made their country a republic. In 1981, Greece joined the European Union. Friends and family. The cafeneo, or coffee shop, is the focus of social life in Greece. You will find one in every village square and on most city streets. People sit at tables, swapping gossip, talking politics, or playing backgammon. You may hear a clinking sound as worry beads are idly flipped over. Worry beads look like rosary beads, but they have no religious meaning. They are just something to play with. The cafeneo's customers are mostly men, but anyone is allowed in. Greeks are famous for their hospitality and friendliness to strangers. The Greek word for foreigner, xenos, also means guest. Greece has modernized a lot in recent years, but like many other traditions, the custom of being kind to strangers remains strong. Country and city. Since the 1950s, hundreds of thousands of Greeks have moved from rural areas to cities in search of better work and a more comfortable life. As a result, Greece's cities have expanded beyond recognition. Athens was home to 700,000 citizens in 1950 and now has 3.7 million people. There is a shortage of housing, so families have to crowd into small apartments. The busy roads also produce a lot of pollution. Car fumes react with the strong sunlight to produce smog, called nephos in Greek. It is sometimes so bad that it gives people breathing problems. Traffic is now restricted in the center of Athens to keep the air clear. The pace of life is faster in cities than the countryside. However, in both town and country, life comes to a halt in mid-afternoon when people take a rest to avoid the hottest time of day. All stores and banks close for a few hours and open again in the early evening. Being together. The family is important in Greek life. Relatives often live close together, sometimes in next-door apartments. Young Greek people do not always get their own apartments. They live with their parents even after they get married. Sometimes families add a floor or new addition to their home when a son or daughter gets married and starts a family. It is common to see many buildings that look unfinished. In fact, they are topped with a layer of concrete so that they are ready for a new floor to be added. A young couple stays with one set of parents until they have enough money to get a place of their own somewhere nearby. Eating in Greece. Greeks are often up early in the morning and eat a simple breakfast of bread, honey, and cheese. They eat lunch and dinner later than in many other countries in order to fit around the afternoon rest period. A large meal usually begins with a mixture of appetizers or mezzedes. These include olives, hummus, and refreshing tzatziki. This is served with pita bread. Greeks eat a lot of meat, especially lamb. One of the most famous dishes is moussaka, layers of baked ground lamb and slices of eggplant. Seafoods such as fish, squid, and octopus are also popular. The eggs or roe of carp, river fish, are mixed with lemon juice, olive oil, and garlic to make a delicious dip called tara masalata. I hope it's pronounced like that. Greeks also eat a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables cooked in olive oil and served warm. With this healthy and varied diet, it is no wonder that Greeks live long lives compared with people from most other countries. Men live to an average age of 77 and women have a life expectancy of 82. Going to school. The state provides free education for all Greek children between the ages of 6 and 15. After 6 years of primary school, children go to a secondary school called a gymnasium. Some students end their educations at age 15, while others go on to 3 more years at a lyceum or high school. Then students may go on to study at a university in one of the big cities. Many small islands have no secondary schools. Students take a ferry to a neighboring island each morning, or their parents send their children to live with a relative on the mainland until they finish their schooling. The school day is shorter in Greece than in other countries, but after school, children may have private lessons in music or a foreign language. One nation, 2 languages. Ancient Greek was quite different from the language spoken in modern Greece. For a long time, there were 2 versions of modern Greek, Katharavousa and Timotiki. Katharavousa was the formal language used for official documents such as laws. It is closer to ancient Greek than Timotiki or Demotic, the language of everyday speech. Today, the differences between the 2 forms of Greek are almost gone. The importance of Greek learning to Western culture is reflected in the many scientific and technical words in English and other languages that come from ancient Greek. Words ending in graphy, such as geography, come from the Greek word meaning to write. Geography, therefore, means writing about the earth. Words that end in logy, such as biology, come from the Greek logos, meaning word. Biology literally means words about life. Fun and games. Soccer and basketball are the most popular sports in Greece. Water sports such as swimming and sailing are also popular, as are volleyball and track sports. Sorry if you can hear my cat snoring in the background. In 2004, the Olympic Games were held in Athens. Track and field events at the Games, such as running, javelin, and discus, date back to the ancient Olympic Games. The distance of a marathon is based on the distance from Athens to Marathon. According to legend, in 490 BCE, a messenger called Phidippides ran from Athens to Marathon to get news of a battle against the Persians. He then ran all the way back to announce Athens' victory. Then poor Phidippides dropped dead. Time to relax. On weekends and in the evenings, Greeks like to socialize in cafes and tavernas. Greek families take their time eating. Dinner is served as late as 10 p.m., and even young children are allowed to stay up. As people eat, there's usually music playing. Traditional Greek music is very distinctive and is popular with young and old. Pop and rock music have not replaced it yet. The main instrument is a long-necked lute called a bouzouki. As the meal ends late in the night, people will move the tables aside so they can dance, often traditional dances. Community action. Religion is a strong force in modern Greece. An overwhelming 98% of the population is Greek Orthodox, the eastern branch of Christianity that developed during Byzantine times. There are also a few Muslims, 1.3% of the population, mostly from Turkey, and smaller numbers of Roman Catholics, Protestants, and Jews. Greek Orthodox priests are all men. They wear tall black hats and flowing robes, and many also have beards. On Sundays, churches are often full. Traditionally, this is a time for village women to meet and catch up on the news. A church service may last up to 3 hours, but people do not have to stay for the whole thing. The biggest church festival of the year is Easter. City folk return to their home village. There are processions on Good Friday and Easter Saturday. Every village also has a patron saint, whose feast day is celebrated with another procession, a feast, fireworks, music, and dancing late into the night. Marching back to greatness. The Greek Parliament, or Vouli, stands on Syntagma Square in Athens. Originally built as a royal palace, the Parliament building has been the government's home since 1935. It is protected by the Avzonis, or National Guard. These elite soldiers arrive on duty in traditional dress, which include a kilt and red beret. Greece is a rich country compared to its nearest neighbors in the Balkans, but poor compared to many Western nations. The country has only enjoyed peace and stability since the mid-1970s, which has allowed time for the economy to prosper. In recent years, the economy has grown rapidly, but in some rural areas, village life has changed very little. The usual politics. Politics is a Greek word. It means art of government. Although the idea of democracy existed in ancient Greece, the modern country became a full democracy in the mid-1970s. Since then, it has been dominated by two main parties, the Pan-Hellenic Socialist Movement, or PASOK, and the New Democracy. PASOK traditionally favors strong government control of the economy to ensure that the country's wealth is shared equally. PASOK has been in power for the majority of the last 30 years. The New Democracy Party favors a free market economy and believes that Greek people need to be able to look after themselves. New Democracy took power in the 2004 election. Its leader, Prime Minister Kostas Karamanlis, is the nephew of the party's founder, Konstantinos Karamanlis. In the neighborhood, one of the issues commonly debated in Greek coffee shops is Greece's relations with its neighbors. After nearly 4 centuries of Ottoman rule and the forced exchange of populations in the 1920s, Greece has a troubled relationship with Turkey. Other flashpoints between the two nations include the Dodecanese Islands, which are owned by Greece but are just a few miles from Turkey, and the Mediterranean island of Cyprus, which is home to both Greek and Turkish communities. In the 1990s, a crisis exploded with another neighbor. Until 1991, Greece shared a border with the state of Yugoslavia. That year, Yugoslavia began to break up into smaller republics. One was Macedonia, which borders Greece. The region of Greece next to this country is also called Macedonia. The Greeks feared that the new republic might one day call for all Macedonians, including those in Greece, to be united as one country. The European Union and United Nations came up with a solution. They called the new republic FYR Macedonia, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. But now it's just called North Macedonia, so no more Yugoslavia in their name. Farming and fishing. Before 1950, most people in Greece earned a living by either farming or fishing. Despite Greece's poor soil, most families lived off a small plot of land. They harvested olives for oil and grapes for wine and raised sheep or goats for milk, cheese, meat, and wool. At the end of each year, there was little left to sell. Most modern farms are run on a commercial basis, growing crops for export. The main crops grown are wheat, cotton, maize, tobacco, citrus fruits, tomatoes, vegetables, olives, and grapes. On coasts and islands, people traditionally lived by fishing. You still see fishermen mending their yellow nets. However, the industry has suffered from overfishing. So many fish have been caught in Greek waters that many species are now rare. Fish farming is a growing business, with sea, bream, and bass raised for local restaurants and sale abroad. Making money. About 1/5 of Greek workers are employed in manufacturing, an industry that makes up about 1/4 of the country's income. Greece factories produce cement, chemicals, cigarettes, shoes, clothing, paper, rubber goods, and processed food and drink. industries. Over 2/3 of Greeks work in service industries, which include banking, government services, schools, transportation, hospitals, and tourism. Tourism makes up about 15% of the nation's economy. It is also a source of foreign currency, which makes it easier to buy things made abroad. The same number of people visit Greece each year as actually live there. Tourists come to enjoy the fine beaches or to visit ancient sites. Athens is the single most popular attraction, followed by the ancient sites of Corinth, Epidaurus, Olympia, Mycenae, Delphi, and the Byzantine village of Mistras. Popular islands for a beach vacation include Kerkyra, Crete, Mykonos, Rhodos, and Santorini. Many tourists explore several islands by ferry, an activity called island hopping. Tourism is a major employer with many thousands of Greeks working in hotels, restaurants, or shops, working as guides or running ferries, buses, and other transportation. Tourism is usually confined to the summer, but the Ministry of Tourism is taking steps to promote Greece as a year-round destination. The rapid expansion of tourism has created a few problems. Some islands have been overdeveloped, which causes problems for wildlife. In the summer, large numbers of visitors can lead to water shortages on some islands. Greek power. In 1960, less than half of all homes in Greece had electricity. Now only the most remote villages are without it. Greece's main source of fuel is a low-grade coal called lignite. The country has very little of its own oil and gas, and so must import what it needs. About 10% of Greece's electricity comes from hydroelectric plants on mountain rivers. Greece has great potential for renewable forms of energy, such as wind and solar power. Small solar panels can be seen on roofs throughout Greece, but no large solar panels have been built because they are too expensive. Windmills have been used to generate energy since ancient times, and there are a number of modern wind farms being built. To the future. Greece's economy is still developing. Between 2000 and 2006, it received $8 billion in aid each year from the European Union, and I should say American dollars. In 2007 to 2013, it received $3.8 billion a year. The government hopes economic progress will continue even though its aid is now reduced. One of Greece's problems is balancing its imports and exports. The total value of all the goods it imports far outweighs the value of its exports. The Greek government aims to tackle this by starting new industries and making existing ones more efficient. Like many countries, it also has to wrestle with unemployment and immigration. Since the 1980s, Greek towns and cities have modernized quickly, but rural areas have lagged behind. Standards of living have improved, bringing Greece more in line with Western Europe. There is considerable optimism, particularly among young Greeks, who have much greater opportunities than their parents and grandparents enjoyed. Looks like the end. Alright. Big old timeline of Greek history. Alright, so that's the end of this book. Put it down carefully. There we go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational.